I sent you something. Okay, I think we're live. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We'll call it 6:30 on the nose by my computer. Okay, on roll call, Mr. Bartlett.
Here.
Mrs. Graves.
Here.
Dr. Lewis.
Here.
Ms. Palazzolo.
Here.
Mrs. Rankin.
Here.
Mr. Stelzer.
Here.
All right. We're all
Our
here.
seventh member of council, Piper Lewis, is also here.
All right.
I want to make sure someone's pointing out to me that there's enough 6-foot distance between the people in chambers.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, just
Yeah,
check.
yeah,
Don't need any of those violations.
we're good. We're all good here. All right. Has everybody seen the minutes? Do we have any questions on the minutes? No. All right. I need a motion and a second to accept the minutes, please.
So moved.
Second,
Rob, all right. On roll call, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo. Did you say aye? Okay. Mrs. Rankin, we got you. We
Aye.
got you. Yeah. Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, we'll accept those minutes. All right, we got quite a bunch of things in communications. You've probably seen the chief's report, Scherpenberg's report, Deanna's report. George Chad had something in there on the pool. Any questions regarding those things?
Nope,
No?
I don't.
All right.
I'll just repeat my same comment from last month is I would like to see these reports at some point start talking about where we are with our expenses with each of these departments. The reports are kind of devoid of any conversation. And I realize some of that may be caused by the lack of available reports for the department heads. So somehow we have to figure out how to allow them to kind of tell us what's going on with their expenses on a monthly basis. Are they on budget, off budget? What's kind of going on? Because I would like to see it in these reports as they come up each month.
Yeah, not a bad idea, Joe.
Hey, Joe, would you see that more in the detailed reports? Because, the ones, this one is just the fiscal officer report is just really high.
No, I'm talking more like the police chief, fire chief, the superintendent, that type of stuff. I mean, that's where the bulk of our budget is. And so, it would be nice to see periodically, whether it's monthly or quarterly, some conversation about this. Where we at year to date spending and what do we anticipate for the rest of the year? They're basically the frontline people in controlling our expenses. So it'd be nice to see that in these reports.
Right. That's
Yeah.
true.
I'll have the actual to budget third quarter report for next meeting.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, I have
Tony.
sorry, somebody else have a remark?
I just said thanks to Tony.
Okay.
Second,
I have a letter here from Anastasia Nuri regarding, she wrote a very nice email into me and to all of council for that matter.
yeah.
Some of you have probably seen it. I'm
Mhm.
going to go ahead and have this included in the minutes. Basically, she's talking about Waldorf, their contribution to the community, a lot of good things that they contribute to the community, that they work on in the community, various aspects about their school. Very, very nicely written. So I'm going to go ahead and have that put into the minutes.
Okay.
Okay. And then Fiscal Officer Wendler, I guess you've seen that report.
Yes.
Any questions regarding that?
No, but if you go back to Deanna's report, though, the thing about calling out year to date, we're still $160,000 less on income tax, total income tax versus last year. But I guess there might be some other people still filing, right, Tony? They're still until.
Yeah, well, I talked to her today. There's we're 400 returns less this year than we were last year. So we're expecting a lot to come in. Maybe not necessarily this week, but when they mail their payments in, she'll get them next week.
Yeah, Tony, just to kind of add on to that a little bit, the 477 returns that she's still waiting for is about 25% of the total returns for the village. So we still got a fair number of returns coming in. And again, we don't know if we're going to see these on the 15th or is this going to require Deanna to go start chasing people to get these filings in. I think this year is kind of an odd year because normally on April 15th, you have every news media, telling everybody about the deadlines. You don't see anything right now about taxes due. So it may require a little bit more chasing than normal.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a typical where there's, this many returns due this late in the season. And she didn't know either because, she's new here. So we'll see.
All right, and from Hamilton County, you all probably seen this, we got some more good news regarding the CARES money. We had a deposit of $126,774 deposited. Tony, do you have a comment about this as to how long we have and what we can do with it?
Yeah, so I need to do a report for up through expenses through September and anything that's been encumbered through September. Plus any receipts that we've had. That's due 10/20, and then I'll do another one around the 1st of January or the 4th of January. But I believe I looked at this last week. I think we have to have this stuff encumbered by middle of November. We don't have to pay for it until later, but it needs to be encumbered by then.
Encumbered by the 20th, but we wouldn't pay final invoices, or we don't really have to have the money spent by sometime in February.
Well,
Is that correct?
That's true. The work has to be done. The work has to be done by the end of December.
Yeah, we have to have it encumbered and get the work done, but it doesn't have to be spent or paid until sometime in January. Like they might give us a bill on December 31st,
Right.
But yeah, the work needs to be done by December 31st.
Okay. Well, stay on top of that, Tony, because if we embark on certain plans, we want to be able to know where we are in that process.
Can we take a little bit deeper dive on this about do we have a list of projects we're looking at for this money?
We do, Joe. We do, and we're going to cover some of that in the miscellaneous topics. But yes.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Certain plans. Yeah. All right, so now normally this would be the permission to address council, and for those of you, that are viewing at home, ordinarily I would have asked that you would send in emails. We would try to address the emails, respond directly to them, make a response here. And I know that I've been getting emails, and other council people have been getting emails from residents, really sort of basically, I don't want to use the word complaining, but sort of stating that, it would be very helpful and nice if we had a method of responding live, letting them partially come into the meeting, responding live to them in real time to their, whatever their questions may be. So what I did today, basically I reached out to ICRC, and I talked with a very nice fellow over there, and we are formulating and putting together a plan whereby we will be able to do that. And I had sort of hoped that I could have something together, maybe even on a trial basis for tonight. But apparently the technical hoops of this are a little bit more complicated than I anticipated. But to make a long story short, there is a way to do this. I'm going to be pursuing the details of it in the coming week. And we will have, by the next council meeting on the 26th, we will have at that meeting, we will have a method set up whereby the residents can address us in real time, and we will be able to answer them in real time. And I hope that y'all got it. I sent around basically sort of some of how this would work. Jason over at ICRC sent me this, so y'all can read up on what the particulars would be. And one of the aspects of it that I don't know whether it had, now maybe Eli could be this, I don't know. We're going to need, I think, what is called a monitor, someone that when the people come in to what is, I guess, known as a waiting room until we got to this portion of the meeting, then they would be allowed in individually. They could address us. They would have their 3 minutes, and then we'd move on to the next. And apparently there is also a way in which if someone should, get a hold of the link that really shouldn't be in talking to us, that they became disruptive, there would be a way to stop that as well. So I do believe that this is well worth our, at least trying this to see if this works. We have 4 remaining meetings between now and the end of the year. And, I guess what I'm suggesting here is that we will continue with Zoom. We'll try to bring the residents in via this mechanism. And then hopefully by the first of the year, we'll reevaluate, what our situation is and possibly get back to, hopefully get back to live meetings. But for now, I think we can do this. Any thoughts, any comments on this?
Bill, I'm assuming we'll maintain the same 3-minute
Yes,
limit.
yes.
That's Ohio revised code is a
Yes.
3-minute limit. So
We will definitely do that. And that would be the role, as I said, the role of the monitor. Be a person who essentially would have their finger on the button, so to speak, that if a person got disruptive or foul language or, something that we really can't have, they would be able to, monitor that.
well,
So
and they could also monitor the 3 minutes and give the person a
Yes.
heads up when they're going
Yes.
to post and say, okay, you probably need to try to wrap it up.
you try to wrap it up. Yeah, exactly.
Does
Yeah.
that include council people?
Yeah, I'd like to have my
Well,
finger on that
Pops
button.
give me
too.
a no.
Anyway, it was a productive talk and I think it's worth pursuing.
Hey, Bill, so regarding that process through ICRC, is there an additional cost to do that? Do we know?
I'm assuming no. I'm
Okay.
assuming no, because obviously I believe he would have mentioned that up front that, yeah, we can do it, but it's going to be an extra expense. I do know this, other municipalities, they are doing it for other municipalities as
Yeah, kind of
somewhat
figured that.
successfully. So, obviously I'll find out about that. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So just a quick comment here. We kind of have evolved into, that it appears we're going to have to continue to do the Zoom meetings until, some point in the future. It doesn't sound like there's going to be a vaccine for COVID anytime soon. So, we originally went with this setup because of the technological limitations of some of us, trying to figure out how to let people in and get people out and all the rest. So we are evolving here. I think we are improving, and it's something we probably are going to be faced to do for at least the next 3 months, if not longer. I don't see a break coming, and so I think this is the way we're going to be doing council meetings for some period of time. So the question is, can we find somebody to be that gatekeeper? And we should be able to recruit somebody. It'll be difficult for one of the council members to do that and then stay engaged with the conversations and or what's going on. So so if we can recruit somebody else to do it, I think that's the best solution.
Well, I'm going to suggest that, the first person I'm going to ask would be Eli. Obviously she's technically savvy and I think that, she could do it. It can't be one of us because you can't concentrate. It can't be Joni.
Right.
Because I don't think you can concentrate. So, but there's a person out there, I'm sure. Yeah.
Again, they can do it remotely. They can do it from the house.
Yeah, and they can do it remotely. They don't have to be here, So we can make this work. All right, any other comments? We good?
Marcy had a comment.
Oh, I just said hi to John, that's all.
Hi, John.
Hey, John, turn your speaker on. You're on mute. There you
We're
go.
good now, I think.
There you
Perfect.
go.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to pay the bills. Everybody looked over the bills. Do we have any question regarding the bills? No?
No.
No. All right, I need a motion and a second to pay the bills.
So moved.
Second,
Second. All right, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
aye.
Ms. Palazzolo, Maggie,
So did I, Max.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Hi.
All right, let's pay the bills. All right, next on the agenda, it looks like we've got a
Few reports.
couple of reports. Yes, rules and law, I think.
Yes, from Rules and Laws Committee regarding changes to code. The Rules and Law Committee met on Thursday, October 8th, 2020 at 1:30 p.m. via Zoom. Present at the meeting were Rob Bartlett, Marcy Lewis, Maggie Palazzolo, and Assistant Fire Chief Tim Feitner. 10 items related to upgrading the code book were addressed. Item 1, address signs in residential districts. Please see the proposed changes in the addendum. The committee voted unanimously to accept them. The only exception is the time limit. Maggie will review how the city of Cincinnati manages how long residents may have signs in their yards. This could be an undue hassle for enforcement. So we want to write it well. Item 2, corrects our code language about no parking on certain streets. The committee voted unanimously to accept this change. Item 3, to allow the building commissioner's position to be filled by a non-resident and change the term to 2 years to match the village solicitor, fiscal officer, etc. The committee had 2 votes in favor of the change and 1 member abstained from voting. Item 4 makes a correction regarding the use of Robert's Rules of Order. The committee voted unanimously to accept this change. Item 5 makes the language regarding dogs in the tot lot fenced area consistent with the other sections of the code book. The committee voted unanimously to accept this change. Item 6, eliminate the dog/cat warden position. The committee voted unanimously to accept this change. Item 7 adds clarity to the rules of council regarding assigning/moving items to committees and improving newly created committees and commissions. The committee voted unanimously to accept this change. Item 8 clarifies Council Rule 25. The committee voted unanimously to accept this change. Item 9 adds language to clarify that Mariemont is required to follow Ohio Manual of Uniform Traffic Devices when adding traffic and control devices. The committee had 2 votes in favor of this change and 1 member abstained from voting. Item 10, the item addresses ordinance number O-14-16 regarding the maintenance of the historic and aesthetic character of the entire village of Mariemont. The committee voted unanimously to take action at this time and has the following statement. We recognize that this has been in process since 2016. And the village solicitor has provided his opinion that it is likely unconstitutional. We choose not to strike it from the code book until we have language to replace it with, and we support the Economic Planning and Zoning Committee in their work to update this section. The committee recommends the solicitor prepare the necessary legislation, and the meeting concluded at 2:30, respectively submitted by, signed by Maggie Palazzolo, Marcy Lewis, and Rob Bartlett.
All right, you've heard the report.
I need to say that was never signed to me. This is the
Yeah,
first
you know
time I've
what?
heard the part in its entirety.
We did not sign it. We did not get signatures. I don't know how I messed that up, but we can get signatures. So Avia, you had a question on item 7 though, and
Hold on.
I'm,
Yeah, Maggie, hold on a minute. Let's have a motion in a second to accept the report, then we'll have our discussion.
okay, sorry.
So do I have a motion
So moved.
and a second, Maggie?
Second.
Second, okay. Maggie had the second.
Okay, so Avia contacted me with a question on item 7, and I'm not seeing there was a part where it wasn't clear, and I don't see it. I'm confused. You said the language wasn't consistent, so we said,
That was number 10.
oh,
That
sorry.
wasn't consistent.
Okay, so we're taking no action. So currently there is an ordinance on the books that talks about maintaining the historic character of the village. And when we wrote it, we knew we would flesh it out more. Actually, Bill came up with a lot of it and did a lot of the research. We knew we needed to flesh it out more. And Ed rendered an opinion, I don't know, a year later-ish, that it probably was not going to be as enforceable as we would like it to be, if enforceable at all. So what we've chosen to do as a committee, at least it's something. So we don't want to take it out, but Marcy has in her committee already and has been working on a bunch of things to flesh it out. So what we're going to do is not take any action on it. And then when she gets her committee work finished, what we'll do is implement her committee work and probably pull this language out because it's not effective.
Sure. Yeah, I understand what it was. I was just in the actual addendum.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it was the email from Ed maybe that's that whole thing. It's just the bottom line of it says, as such, I propose we remove the ordinance. And so it was just contrary to what that one was. And so I was just making sure that I had it straight.
Yeah,
You have it right in the report. So if
yeah, we did. We voted unanimously to do nothing. If that makes any sense.
That's not possible.
We're leaving it alone. I mean, I think that's what it means.
Yeah.
Well, technically, that item wasn't even on the agenda.
No
That got added the morning of. That was not on the public notice. So I don't know if that makes it a
It
valid
was
vote
under
or not.
item 1. It was one of the changes and updates to the code under item 1.
I never saw a list of those in the agenda.
No, we handled this, Marcy, the exact same way. We've had 2 other meetings, Marcy, that have handled this exactly the same way, where the notice says we are reviewing MCO code. And so,
Well, I just think in the agenda, it should delineate exactly what we're looking at.
okay, well, I'm just saying, we did this before. We had a list of topics we addressed before.
And I think the public should have a chance to see what it is we're proposing to change.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys, you got to admit, it's a little vague when you basically just say, we're looking to, review or revise the code. I mean, it should kind of say which code. I mean, the code book is what, 1,000 pages.
Yeah, it's kind of a thick book.
So let me propose this, because I need input then, as the person who's trying to do all this work and get this stuff done so we can recodify.
Sure.
We agreed, and Bill, you were part of the discussion months ago, that we would put that on as an item in my committee that would kind of just live there and then have these date updates as we do work.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do that, what I have to do is wait for a council meeting and ask you to put a thing in my committee. So if something comes up and we just need to handle it, I can't handle it.
Well, no, I mean, as a general topic, I believe it could stay there. I think all Marcy basically is saying, as a subcategory listing right beneath, the revision to the code, which code are you guys going to be
Just on the agenda, on the agenda beforehand that gets posted to the public.
I mean, how would the public know which one you're going to be discussing? And,
Yeah, I mean, even a brief,
And that code book is pretty thick, and I'd like to take the time and due diligence, and to read through it and look through it.
Okay.
So, it would be helpful to me if we could see those specific items listed, like I said, on the agenda. So if there is a resident who has a specific opinion or, desire, I know a lot of it is just
just
cleaning
the
up words
basic,
in there.
yeah, just a basic. I mean, I don't think it has to get too crazy specific, but say, topic.
Okay.
So at least if somebody said, well, I would kind of like to know more about item number 5, and they have the opportunity to know what that's going to be.
Yeah.
Or even if it just would have said, these are the topics that we are revisiting that were, because there was a council meeting where we accepted some of the report, but not all of the report.
Yes.
And I made that point during the meeting, and that wasn't mentioned in the report. And I kind of wish that was.
Well, the reason
I feel it's important.
So I'll mention it now because I pulled the old report, and the only thing we talked about sidewalks and did nothing in terms of changing biking on the sidewalks because of the kids, and we left that up to officer discretion in terms of enforcement. And then the only other item, we're actually addressing it again, even though it wasn't accepted in the July 1st report, was the removal of the dog and cat warden portion. So we're essentially doing that twice at this point, but that's the only other one that was relevant. So technically that shouldn't be in this report because it was already accepted in a July 1st report.
But if you're going to hold another meeting regarding it, it would just, I mean, just to simply list it.
It was
Yeah.
the exact same thing.
Yeah, because I mean, even Rob sent out, what was a fairly good document, for reading for our benefit as to what it was going to be, which was good. But I don't think the public shared in that, and they, like I said, maybe somebody wants to be the cat or dog warden. If we're going to take it off the books, maybe they want to say something about it. I don't know. Let's just give them the shot. That's all.
Got it.
Yeah. But I have one other point in this that I want to raise about this. It's not item number 9, where you guys want to require that the Ohio Manual of Uniform Traffic Devices be followed whenever we would be discussing, I guess, the addition of a traffic control device. I know this has been an old argument that's been, we've bantied this about. I'm just a little concerned that are we adding a layer of ungodly expense to do something simple, like decide, a yield sign, a stop sign, a traffic light, something like that.
This is already a requirement.
Yeah.
This is Ohio
We're
Revised
not
Code.
adding anything. We're simply adding language in the code book because council members in the past, because this isn't our full-time job. We're not
It's
bureaucrats.
not that I'm not suggesting that we wouldn't consult with an engineer. I mean, we have our own engineer that we might consult with. We could consult with the police chief on these matters. Has anybody looked into what it would cost to hire a bona fide
No.
traffic control
So
engineer?
this doesn't have anything to do with it.
This does not require that. Again, Bill, if you read the preamble, we talked to Ed about this multiple times, right? So Ed has agreed, yeah, we have to follow this. This is a preamble that just goes in that section and says, just make sure council is aware that we have to follow it. It doesn't say that we have to hire anybody.
Okay.
All it says is,
Well, that-
council, make sure you follow this Ohio revised, the Ohio manual uniform traffic control.
Which, you know, if you're a new council person, you may have never heard of this before, know that it even
Yeah, for
exists.
sure,
So you
for
might
sure.
say,
There's
"Oh,
nothing in there that
sure,
says you have to
I'll
hire
find it."
anybody for anything.
So there's nothing in the manual that basically says that
No.
you have to hire.
It's just ORC. I mean, it is we have to follow it anyway. It's just, we might as well know that it exists.
Yeah.
Bill, there is no question. Rob and I have gone through this many, many times, and I think everybody knows what the basis of Rob's concern was about the traffic control devices. But he's right on this one. I've told you guys this. I told Paula Castro this from the very beginning. We have to file the Ohio Uniform Traffic Control Device Manual. That's just, it goes without saying in our code. Now, if we want to put it, I didn't actually read the ordinance that they want to change, but it really goes without saying that we got to follow it. But, and you know, however y'all want to do it, it's fine by me, but you understand? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Again, like I said, because this is an older discussion, this has been, around several, times. And the business about having to hire this bona fide traffic engineer, was always, part of that discussion. I just want to be clear, just trying to be clear here.
Right.
If
No, I
we
understand.
this, that we're not obligating ourselves to some ungodly expense. That's all.
No, doesn't say that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
yeah, I'm totally for, I mean, obviously, if there's a manual out there that we have, that we're, duty bound to follow, I'm all for that. But
Yeah.
I guess I was partially suggesting that the manual could be followed without the addition of hiring this bona fide
And
engineer.
it doesn't say
But-
that. You keep saying that.
yeah,
Bill.
well,
It doesn't say that.
I'm
Look,
just trying to
all it
be
says
clear.
here is
Yeah.
council should refer to the OMUTCD if any new traffic control devices are being contemplated.
All right.
That's all it says.
All right.
Council will refer to it.
All right.
Doesn't say anything about having to hire anybody.
All right.
You're going down a rabbit hole. It
Well,
doesn't exist.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
Better to go down it now than later when we're, bound to do it. But-
So
all right, well, everybody's clear, I'm clear.
I'm clear.
All right. All right, so.
So
on
the
roll-
question is where do we go with this report at this point?
we're supposed to vote on it, to accept it.
Do we vote on the whole thing or do we go item by item? Because it's pretty comprehensive.
My question is,
You
And
know,
then
Joe-
before we go item by item, is there anybody that objects to any of the items? So at least we know if there's some objectors out there.
We kind of went through this there with that report a couple months ago, where there was a couple items that we decided to table, and then there was like 3 items that we went ahead and voted on. So to Joe's point, I mean, I'm fine with all of it, but if somebody does have a concern about 1 or 2 of them, we need to discuss that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, obviously I was, attempting to take issue with, item 9, but apparently my, concerns have been answered. But,
Right.
but,
Yeah, I
Joe
guess
is.
Joe wants to know if anybody else has any ones that they're.
Yeah.
It's a
Do you
fair
want to
question.
vote on it as a
Well,
whole?
wait,
or-
I think what Joe's doing is the right thing. Let's just ask, does anybody else have any other issues?
Yeah, are there
Because if
any
nobody
other-
has any other issues, then we can vote as the whole thing or not.
No issues.
No issues.
So Maggie, you're going to amend the report to that about what I stated about clarifying those agenda items under code?
What, Marcy, I don't think that this report needs to be amended at all. But I just think what they're talking about is in the future, just be a little bit more specific when you send out an agenda.
Well, I did ask that, but I also feel, I mean, if something was brought up in the meeting that something needs to be clarified in the future, I'd like that documented in the report.
in the minutes, but it doesn't have to be in the report, because it's not
Yeah.
of. And
Well, if it's documented in the minutes, then that's good.
Okay.
Okay, so the only question I've got is on item 1, is we still don't know the time limit. Do we have that piece of information yet?
No, we just did this Thursday, so I rushed to get the report in, and then we'll before we amend the legislation and codify, my next committee meeting will address the time limit. So
Yeah, but
it's
yeah,
gonna be
that's
done in 2
important.
weeks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am curious as to how they handle that myself, so that will be.
So do we delay on item 1 then until we have that time limit?
Well,
I
I
mean,
think-
we can vote on the we agreed on and then do the time limit as a separate item. I think, because that's more of, for me, I'm thinking it's more of an organizational type item. Like, where does that live in our organization? Are the police people who are going to be enforcing how long a sign's been in your yard? Or is that more like a building commissioner item? Or I mean, who owns that? So that's something we need to think about as a team, and I'm open to suggestions. And then in terms of like, how do our communities do?
Okay, so I just reread this. So it's going to be silent now as to time limit, and we can come back
Exactly.
later with the time limit. Okay, got it.
And Maggie, I think you're 100% right on this. When you talk about signs, we have got to be ultra careful about the changes that we make, because there's just been a boatload of litigation about it. And we ourselves even got caught in some of it years ago. So we just have to be careful as to how we word it. I'd be curious to see what the city does on it.
Yeah, we have a sample piece of, well, you know this, we have a sample piece and we're going to look at that. But then also I'm curious, you'd look at your biggest next door neighbor, how does the city handle it? And we would probably align with them.
Okay.
So I mean, we'll hold off the discussion about the timing, of a sign until
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'll have
Right,
another committee meeting.
There's language in here that's going to be the proposed change, and it doesn't have timing language in it. That's okay. We can add that later.
Right.
Yep,
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so then we're all good?
good.
Well,
Okay,
good.
okay, on roll call, Mr. Bartlett,
aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo,
I never comes through.
we got you,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right,
Is that line?
all right, so one more report, Tony, on grills on balconies.
Yes, from the Rules and Laws Committee regarding grills on balconies. The Rules and Law Committee met on Thursday, October 8th, 2020 at 1:30 p.m. via Zoom. Present at the meeting were Rob Bartlett, Marcy Lewis, Maggie Palazzolo, and Assistant Fire Chief Tim Feitner. The meeting ended at 2:30, but this portion only lasted about 20 minutes. The first topic discussed was the use of grills on balconies. Our current code prohibits this, but some of the owners of condos paid to have natural gas lines run to their balconies and had sprinklers installed. The state fire code allows for grills on patios and balconies as long as those two conditions are met: permanent gas line and sprinkler. Assistant Fire Chief Feitner stated that he thinks it is appropriate to change our code to match the state code. We would like to add the requirement that each resident with a grill on their balcony also have a mounted fire extinguisher. The committee unanimously supports this recommendation. In addition, to clarify our code, the committee recommends that section 91.36, C, 5 be changed to read, quote, "No fire pits or any sort of any sort are permitted in multi-family dwellings," unquote, rather than, quote, "wood burning fire pits," unquote. Remove the words, quote, unquote, "patios," and add a requirement that fire pits on patios need to be 10 feet away from the dwelling. It is recommended that the solicitor prepare the necessary legislation, and respectively submitted by Maggie Palazzolo and signed by Maggie and maybe Marcy and Rob. So.
Yeah, so to clarify, the code is on the next page for you. And they talk about in number, like it's in parentheses, but 5, it says no outdoor wood burning fire pits are permitted on balconies, porches, or patios of multi-unit structures. So what Assistant Fire Chief Feitner suggested that because now there are other forms like these little propane type fire pits. So he wants to suggest that we change the wording to broaden it, take off wood burning and make any fire pit not allowed. But then when we discussed multi-unit structures, there's the townhouses that have these patios, and he confirmed for us that he finds that it's completely fine if they're on a patio as long as they're already required 10 feet away from the structure itself. So we just clarified the wording by taking out wood burning, taking out patio, and then specifying that it I mean, because we know it needs to be 10 feet away and it's in the state code, but it should be very clear to the people who are, you know, looking to use these. So we added that requirement, and then that's it. So that sounds really confusing, but it's not as hard as it seems.
Maggie, do they have to be on a patio?
No, it just, but in this code, it disallows them on patios.
Okay.
We don't discuss, like, if you want one in your grass, we don't address it. Now, is that a good idea? I don't know. Should we address it? Maybe, but that's not what we're talking about here.
I would think the whole same 10-foot rule would apply though, even if it's in the grass.
It does, yeah.
Any other comments? Are we all following this?
Yep.
All right. No other questions then?
Not here.
All right, you've heard the report. We've had a discussion, so I need a motion and a second to accept the report.
So moved.
Second,
Who had the second?
Meg.
Maggie? Okay.
Maggie.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Graves?
Hi.
Sorry. I was looking at something else.
Why do I have two Johns?
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo?
aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Selzer?
Aye.
All right, we'll pass that report. All right, I think that's all the reports. All right, now to get to the fun stuff. Let's go on to miscellaneous. We'll start with Betty's night. As far as I know, I've checked around, all other communities are still holding traditional trick or treat, starting at 6, running from 6 to 8, a couple hours there. Unless you guys have got other comments about this, I'm assuming and stating that I believe Mariemont should stick to this.
Agreed.
Should we not put out some potentially communication about it and
Yes.
suggest that they
Yes, we will
socially
definitely,
distance?
when we list what the hours are going to be and exactly confirming the night, even though most people know, we will, we'll put out, certain protocols that we would like to see followed, regarding, the, kids going to the house. And I think the bigger thing, obviously, is that for those who are not comfortable with this and don't want to do this,
Turn it off.
the policy would be turn your lights off or don't send your kids out, kind of a thing. What a parent does with a child's candy, once he has at home, if they want to isolate the candy for a period of time, like some health departments have recommended. We could, obviously we could publish those and put that out there. But other than that, I think that's what we're doing.
I just want to put out that my plan is to not touch it and to use a tongs to drop it into the kids thing
Okay,
so that there's, no contamination.
yes.
And so we're gonna
Put that medical degree to work.
So we're gonna post the information on like what Nextdoor and the village website? Is that where you're talking about the communication that's gonna go out?
Yes. Is there another issue of the town crier to go out between now and then? We could put it in there as well.
No, the October one's already out.
Already out. Okay. Well, we'll post it at all available locations, the information. Now, obviously, let me just say one final thing. Obviously, between now and then, if if some drastic condition changes within the county, obviously I'm going to have to respond to that and
Sure.
and reevaluate the situation, then.
And there's one more council meeting before.
And
that,
there
too.
is one more council meeting, before that. In fact, it would come just a couple of days before, so I think we could cover ourselves then.
Yeah, so I talked to one of the people from the preschool parents group, and what they're doing is they're watching the schools to see what the schools do.
Mhm.
If the schools lock down, then we should probably take a hard look at Halloween at that point. So, because apparently the schools are monitoring the data locally, within the area. So we can take a read from them about what they're seeing regarding COVID issues.
Sure. As I said, yeah, we'll just keep monitoring it, right up until the date. We have to make a change, we'll make a change. All right, tree committee. Joe, I think this is, you've been. What do you
Yeah,
think?
so
Well,
I just kind of do a quick summary. I think most of you have seen the email I sent around. I just got questions right now about, I found out that we have a tree committee that apparently got formed. And I understand it's been kind of a evolving thing over the past couple months. And my questions kind of came down to, okay, what is the tree committee being set up to do? Is it a comprehensive tree committee for the entire village, or is it limited to certain areas? And I've gotten some answers along the way, and I think Marcy can help, provide a little color on where we stand with this tree committee and form. But my questions more come from the standpoint that, what is our plan with trees for the entire village? Not only for, and it sounds like the Preservation Foundation has been working on a couple select areas, for tree planting and replacement. But my question comes to, should we be looking at the entire village? Do we need a tree committee looking at the entire village, or what's our plan for the entire village?
well, if I can interject before Marcy does,
Okay.
let me explain how this whole thing worked out. And we're a Tree City USA, and they have certain recommendation or certain criteria that we have to follow. In the past, we've gotten rid of our arborist because of political reasons. There have been 3 of them. The Park Advisory Board has been put in that position to be our park board and tree commission. Over the years, I've been dealing with the ODNR, and they've we're on a very thin line. And if you want to be a Tree City village, if you don't, that's fine. You don't have to be. It's a voluntary thing. In order to keep our status going, we need to have a tree commission. I talked to Louise, and they're more than happy to forget the trees and just deal with the parks and all the park stuff that goes on. So when Bill came in, I proposed to him, I said, this is only for Tree City USA status. We do not have anything in our ordinance about arborist or anything else, or the Tree City itself. So in order to keep to the status so that we can maintain Tree City, this is why I started this. The mayor is in charge of the trees per our ordinance.
Street trees.
Street trees, yes. Over the years, we've had issues with people coming in from P&G, GE, or other big corporations moving in and living here for 6 months. They don't like the big oak trees. They don't like the big maples because limbs fall down in the storms. So they've removed our historical trees, and we've been losing our canopy throughout the village the last 10 years. So the village finally, with Mayor Dan, decided to do anything that's a historical tree, which is so much diameter that we determined that they need a $25 permit if they're going to remove it. And they have to have an arborist come in and sign off why they feel that tree needs to be removed. So it can't just be removed because, hey, it's so big and we're having these storms and I had a branch fall off. Every tree in the village has branches fall off. We have leaves, everything. So everybody had, just because a tree doesn't look good doesn't mean it has to come down. It's like art. Everybody can disagree with what that picture of art looks like. Just because it's that, you don't destroy the art just because of what one person says. So in order to maintain our Tree City USA status, I've been working past 4 years with ODNR. We've gotten, MPF has been now involved. They offered us $10,000 the 1 year. After several meetings, we determined they keep the money. Whatever the village pays, they will go ahead and reimburse us, because of the fact that there's many areas like Elm Street that has the underground utilities like everywhere else, but they have the fiber optics and everything else. That little planting strip's only 2.5 to 3 feet. So by the time you try to plant a tree, it's not going to be able to fit in there because of all the utilities. If MPF keeps the money and somebody really, really wants a tree in front of their house, they can put it on the other side of the sidewalk, which is out of the right of way. They can put it in for them and they can maintain it. The village cannot, because we do not have an easement. So this is how this has all come about. Right now, we're working on the historical area. Last year, we did oaks, red oaks, and Ushiami cherries. This year, we're working on Maple Street to replace all the trees that have been removed over there, and we're putting in the sugar maples that were brought up by ODNR as far as where we can plant. I'm going to be walking the area. Mary Beth York and Brad Lockhart walked the area, and they only found, instead
I
of
was
putting
there
25
too.
trees, they've, oh yeah, Marcy, I did get your last email. Walked the area and determined we don't need 25 there. We can reduce it down a little bit. So Mary and I are going to walk probably tomorrow and go through the trees that are there now. The trees that we're planting today aren't going to be that tall until 20 years. So the ones that are there now are probably going to be removed. So we can kind of look a little bit closer to the pattern so that we got a good canopy and everything through that. So that's where we are on trees now. The village, we usually get a budget of $50,000 in the last, I think it was 7 years, Tony started putting it in there. We arrange anywhere from, I would say, anywhere from $29,000 for trees to be removed and trimmed and planted, up to $117,000 a year. Now, overall, when I file for the Tree City USA, we have to tell them the number of trees we removed, the number of trees that are planted, and the cost factor. And that includes what Davy Tree, we pay Davy Tree, plus what we do in-house. All our volunteer work, the administrative work, and all that. So we actually average overall $80,000 to $100,000 on tree work throughout the village every year. So yeah, that's where we are right now. And that's why I brought up the fact that we need to do this kind of thing in order to maintain Tree City USA. It's nothing, like I said, there's nothing in the ordinance as far as the Tree City USA. And if later on we are trying to work out a plan throughout the village, just like Mary and Christie did, and John Nolan did. Unfortunately, what they have sometimes doesn't work in the area because of the wiring that's out there. Duke Energy would like to trim even the smallest tree out because they're anything around the wiring, they're wanting to trim down the top. We used to L shape it. Then people complained in the winter time about it. So we started doing a V shape. But once the leaves all fall, people complained about how bad it looked with the wires going through. It's a no-win situation. So we decided to start looking at trees that grow up maybe 15 feet and stay underneath the wire. And then we try to tell them, if we know when Duke Energy's coming, we try to work with them and saying, hey, look, this is a type of tree that doesn't go over 15 feet. Do not touch them. And then we take care of that. So right now, if we maintain like the regular pruning and stuff, the tree should be okay. So, but that's where we're at as far as the tree status goes. It's all about Tree City USA, maintaining the Tree City USA and working with MPF and helping us get this all back together.
John,
Go ahead.
hold on, Mitchell. Let me ask one quick question regarding the type of tree and where, within that right of way, sometimes, like you said, you've got this very little narrow strip, and sometimes it's a wider strip between the sidewalk and the street. I'm talking. It was my understanding. I mean, it was Wendy Van Buren, who is with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. She is an arborist, and during the original work that we were doing with MPF, she was going about the village, and you were there. I was there. A few others were there, and she was trying to inventory, the types of trees that we have, and then sort of to determine what would be the, you don't want to put like a grand oak tree in one of those little narrow spaces. And wasn't basically working on a plan as to what, the various not only the types of trees, but the size of tree that would be appropriate for a given area.
Yes.
Well, my question is she still doing that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're still working off when Karen Sullivan was with MPF.
Right.
And what we have already revised and done. So with this tree committee, we're kind of keeping it small. And so that we can just go ahead and then start looking at all the other different streets and see where planting needs to be, what's going to be the best tree planting in that area, and try to keep it all that way. This way, when we do our trees, when you do a study of the trees like we did in the past, you're not going to have 80% maples, 10% oaks, 5% whatever. This way you can 20, 20, 20, or 30, 30, 30, and break it down that way, and then have it out equal. We like to keep them all the same trees in the same area. If you recall, the ash trees, we had them throughout the whole village. When the emerald ash borer came in, Center Street got ruined, the square got ruined, and Beach Street got ruined. And then in between was a lot of other little streets in between. Well, if they're all on the same street, it's cheaper to remove that way than it is to have a company come all the way around to each little different street set up, redo that again, and do all their setup costs and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So it's basically good to have the same tree in the same area, but we can mix it all up. There's different types of maples that you can put in. Some of them are more growing. If you look at the square, we put the Patriot elm in at a 5-inch caliber, and on Center Street we put the 3-inch caliber, like the sycamore trees, the London plane trees. While the 3-inch calibers actually grew the same amount as the other ones did, because the bigger the tree you put in, the more root span you cut off. So it's a slower process. So any tree that's like a 1.5 to 2.5 inch caliber is probably the best to plant. When you get to 3, 4, 5, 6-inch caliber, they're cutting the root base off, so the tree doesn't grow as fast.
Yeah.
So the old adage is, the first year you plant it, the tree sleeps. The second year, the roots creep. The third year, the tree creeps. So there's really nothing as far as going any bigger than what we do, the 2.5 inches.
Okay.
So what we eventually are going to do is have a plan for the whole village. So right now we're starting small with the tree committee, working in this area. And then once this is done, then we'll start evaluating next year, like the winter time is the best time to start evaluating the streets. What tree is going to fit best there with utilities, and what tree height wise is going to fit in that area. So that's where we're at.
And also what's historically consistent with what Nolan recommended,
Yes.
if possible. There's certain trees, obviously, that you're not going to plant chestnuts anymore because.
Okay, but my concern more than anything else is that this has been going on for a while, and this is the first that council's hearing about it. And I understand that you're trying to do this small to start with to try to comply with the tree city, but I guess in my mind, I am wondering if we are spending enough on trees in the village overall. Is the $50,000 target to spend on trees enough? Because, and I just got this data today from Allison, and I think, John, you got the same spreadsheet about what we spent since 2015. And as I go through this, we spent a lot more taking trees out than putting trees in.
Correct.
Okay.
Because once you take it out in the budget, as far as the removals, we don't have the money to plan.
Okay,
so
but
right now we're working
that's
with
where
MPF.
council has to be kept informed so we can make a decision about should we allocate more dollars towards this thing. But right now, we don't even know what the plan is.
Well, the last 5 years, you've been giving me $50,000 plus $25,000 in the beautification fund. Prior to that, there has been no budget for trees, period.
Okay, but
so if we remove X amount of dollars and started using the permanent improvement levy to help plant trees, when all of a sudden back in 2008, when the budgets were all being cut because of the crisis that we were going through, they decided, hey, let's use some of the permanent improvement because trees will last 5 years. There's that 5-year line that we can kind of use a little bit to help with the trees. The village does not have a tree budget per se. They never have. We don't have taxes on it. We don't have it like other departments like Terrace Park. They ran a tree levy. So if trees come down, they've got enough money in that levy to help cover it and rebuild again. We do not have that. And with Hurricane Ike that came through, that devastated this village. And we do not have the money to put back that we had before. Okay, You're not the first council member that brought this up. It goes back to Courtney Sheezer, who brought it up years ago about, hey, we need to bring X amount of dollars just for planting itself, not the removals, but just planting itself. He wanted to bring in so we could plant close to 100 trees a year, but we don't have that in our budget.
John, I will interject here. At least myself as a member of council, and I think the other members of council too, need to understand what the magnitude of the problem is that we're facing in this village. And then it's up to us to try to figure out how do we allocate the dollars to address the problems. But if we don't know what the magnitude of the problems is, it's hard for us to figure out how much to allocate.
Can I throw something in real quick here? So,
well, previous councils didn't really care.
Yep.
I'll tell you that right now.
Yep.
They really didn't care.
Let Rob get in. Let Rob get in, please.
So first of all, John, thank you very much for doing all the stuff to Tree City. I think that's really important that we keep that up. So thank you for doing that. Number two, I think it's great that we have this tree committee. The only thing for me is, again, I just want to make sure we're clear on what the scope of the responsibility is. Because, you know, it's like, I think we're saying Parks Board is not responsible. And so just getting clear about where does one group start, where does another group end? And then to Joe's point, just sort of saying, okay, so in terms of scope of work for the tree committee, is it village-wide? Is it only certain streets? I think, again, we need to just all get aligned on that. There needs to be something on paper that we can all say, okay, 2 thumbs up. And maybe one of those things is making an assessment about what should be the ongoing plan type of thing. But I think that would help a lot. Again, I'm totally supportive of the concept of having a tree committee and you being on it because of all your experience. And I think it's just a matter of just laying out a document, say, here's what the tree committee is going to do. And like, is this an ongoing thing? I mean, it sounds like it should be an important thing.
Well, yeah, it's been doing it for 5.
Yeah.
Well, and John.
So like I told Bill,
John,
go ahead, Marcy.
If I read the correspondence, the previous correspondence that you've had with Wendy Van Buren, it is her intent to develop a plan for the village. She's worked primarily so far in areas 5 and 6. And if you could clarify, do those correspond with the districts 5 and 6 that she's referring to in those emails?
So,
okay.
yes.
So she's starting in the
those are the areas.
And
The historical area.
She started with the areas that she saw the most need.
Hey
Yes,
guys,
that's where we lost the most of our canopy.
let me make a suggestion here because this discussion is going to go on forever. I really believe this is something that should probably be discussed within a committee.
Yes.
Let's put this in a committee and work on the details that we're sort of hammering around here tonight. And the committee can come up with a plan, a recommendation, and then bring that into council and can work with Wendy Van Buren and others at NPF. The question is, which committee? I mean, is this Joe? Is this?
Sounds like it's Health and Rec.
It sounds like it's Health and Rec.
Well, I looked at the definition, and the definition for health and rec is health, sanitation, parks, playgrounds, waste, and garbage collection. So trees, I mean, you could argue the trees in the parks would be covered by it, but I'm not going to automatically say it's automatically health and rec. I don't know if this is public works.
So what does public works say? Because I think we've talked about this kind of thing before as public works.
Light, telephone, telegraph, gas, water, conduit, sewer, heat, streets, roads, and transportation. So it really doesn't fit. It really doesn't fit any one of the committee definitions that's in the code right now.
I would say let's sort of fit with parks, because again, it's really more public property, right, that we're talking about. And it seems like what you shared with us, that Parks Board committee report where they sort of identified, hey, we don't have to, there's this other group now that's going to take care of this. So I would think it does seem like it previously would have fallen under parks, and they've now said, oh no, it's not us, it's somebody else. So if parks are under health and rec, I would think this would make sense for your committee.
Yeah. I mean, just because it doesn't specifically say trees, I mean, I think we can.
I'll leave it to the rest of the council to decide which committee. I'll stay out of this one since
And
I'm
I
sure
think
the health and rec.
I think you have some really good ideas about how we need to have a larger master plan. So I think, you've got a lot of strong ideas about that. So I would trust it coming into your committee.
Yeah, Joe, because you and I had sort of had a conversation partially about this, even sort of running the tree committee might run a little parallel to the parks board kind of a thing. And because they're more parks and trees are kind of a separate kind of a thing. I think that was a good idea. So why don't you take this idea and let's develop it
Joe, I'm in that committee with you, so
Okay.
I'll help you with this.
And maybe that makes sense because Marcy's deep into it already. So we got a natural, knowledge base there.
Can I ask a clarification question? It's kind of silly, but so is this tree committee over the trees in the parks? Or is that under the parks?
I think that's.
No, the tree-
I think that's to be
You guys figure that
determined.
out.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, Marcy, it's not a
It'll be
silly
the whole
question
village.
because
It'll
there's
be
not
the whole
clar-
village.
Yeah, there's not clarity in the code of ordinances regarding that. Who's responsible for parks, who's responsible for trees in parks or out of parks. So we're going to have to figure this out as we go on. So.
Okay.
I thought Bill was the arborist for the village now.
no, I'm just in charge of trees.
One thing I said to Joe when we were talking last week is I would reach out to Wendy and John, if this is okay with you, is to kind of get a summary of where she is in her planning. Because I think she's well qualified to help us with this. And she's doing it basically at no charge to us, as I understand.
Correct. And this is what happened back 3 to 4 years ago. We're still working on that plan.
Okay. Hey, listen, guys, just a sort of a sidestep kind of a thing here before we move off of this. Mandy Rohal and others are very concerned right now about that tree that they would like to replace that's over there that was the one that blew down in the top lot. And I was having some
That's the next
discussion.
topic, isn't it?
Is that the next topic?
Yep.
Well, top lot improvements. Okay, we're moving on to the next topic.
There we go.
Hey,
Because what I would like to do, I don't really want to wait around for Joe to get the tree committee up to speed. I would like to be able, with your permission or your agreement on this, to basically, I'll talk with Mandy, she and I or a few others will coordinate. And what I'm trying to say is I want to get the tree in the ground over in the tot lot now. This is the planting time for trees.
Yep.
If we don't do it now, another year will go by before we really get there. I'm just sort of isolating this out as, a single tree kind of a thing. I'll spearhead it with, one of the members of MPG, and I think we can get the tree.
There's already a lot of work that's been done on this bill. I mean, Mary Beth York has been in touch with the president of MPPG.
Right. No, I know. No,
They've kind of vacillated on what they want, at first.
And that's all changed.
That's all changed.
Yes, as far as planting the tree.
Well, they still want a tree, right?
Too.
Well, that I was under the standing that that's been changed, that they're going to redo something else.
Okay, so it sounds like this is a little bit of in motion right now. So can I make a motion that we will authorize Bill to take on the responsibility for the tot lot as we figure out, there's a macro issue we have to figure out is who's responsible for parks. When somebody comes to us with a proposal where they want to do something with the parks, is it the Parks Advisory Board or is it somewhere else? Because this has been inconsistent in the past about who reviewed proposals for the parks. So I think what Bill's recommending, and I'll make a motion, and I'd like us to take a vote on this, is authorize Bill to be the point person for these tot lot improvements so we can get this done in a week or two and not have to run it through a full committee process. We'll do that overall, but so I'll make that
On a
motion.
comprehensive basis, yeah.
Okay, we got a second on that.
I'll
moving second, third.
All right, quick roll call. Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves.
Hi.
I got it right this time. Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo,
Hi.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
All right.
All right, that's good. This is really good because I really want to see this thing, I'll get back in contact with these people. I want to see this move forward this fall while we still have a window of opportunity to get a tree in the ground. All right, moving on. Okay, this is.
Joe, did you want to talk this Ann Button Becker Park thing too, or not?
No, I would leave Becker out because that's a much more comprehensive deal. The tot lot's something you can do in 2 weeks.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay. What is the principle when letters are added to council agenda and when are they not? Do we have thoughts on that?
And also in the minutes too.
And well, obviously they'd be put in the minutes, yeah.
Sometimes.
So don't we have a policy? This is blowing my mind. I know in the past this is year 7 for me, and it has seemed a little difficult to understand why things are left out versus put in. And I think sometimes things were left out when they were just more, I don't know, dramatic, and we had a lot of arguing about something or another.
Oh, lights on.
Letters were taken out and some letters were put in, and hopefully those days are over. But isn't there a written policy at some place for us to, if I get an email from someone and it's just kind of a question and I answer it, I don't feel like I need to send it on to Bill. If all of council is copied on somebody who has an opinion on something, particularly if it's on the agenda or if it's something that we should be adding to an agenda to take care of, I think it's a given. Don't we have some kind of guideline for this? Okay, then we need to put it in a committee to write a guideline for this.
I don't know, Maggie. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I partially agree. It just seems that the way we've kind of done this, if you have a larger issue where all of council has been contacted via email, then as sort of a semi-general rule, that email may be read at council and put into the minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If
Then if there's only there have been times where we fall into voting blocks, sort of. So somebody would have something they know that they write the people who they know would advocate for them.
Mhm.
So in that case, then, all of council hasn't received it. Some of us know about it ahead of time. Sometimes it's passed on to the rest of us, sometimes not. But that person's opinion is no less important and deserves to be put into the minutes,
And
Well,
sometimes
probably-
people request to have their letter put into the minutes.
They do. That's a good point. Probably instead of, again, getting into the weeds here tonight, let's put this in your committee. I think this is a rules and law type of an issue. You can work on it, formulate it, some kind of a stance, and bring it to council and we'll debate it then.
Okay.
When you have something, coherent to debate.
Yep.
Okay, sound good? Everybody
I
good?
think that's good.
Okay.
Good.
All right, moving on. This is the update of each committee chair on each topic in their respective committees. Basically, I think what we're asking here, what Rob is asking, do any of you want to give a quick little summary report of where you are on the items listed that are in your committee?
Given the time that
Yeah.
we're taking, why don't we all do type it up in an email, send it to all the council members. And if things come up we want to discuss, we do it in the next meeting.
So I have to disagree only because I think it's really important that we do this out loud in front of people who are listening to this meeting.
Okay.
I think this is
Yeah.
about-
I'm not opposed to just, taking a couple minutes.
Okay.
Well, then lead off, Avia.
All right, so I've got 3 things in my committee currently. First is traffic speeding concerns, basically for the village. Though actually a decent amount of conversation and work has been done in this area with, regards to speeding, but just haven't had a specific committee meeting on the topic. Was waiting. Originally, I had thought we were going back to face-to-face meetings in July. This is one where I just really feel like that citizens need to be able to participate in the meeting. But work has been done on the area. Essentially, I think what this is going to come down to is really just kind of establishing a process for when individuals do have speeding concerns on a street, so that you can understand as a resident, what steps to potentially take and what steps us as a village are going to do. I mean, I have met with Bill. I have met with the chief. We've had lots of conversations. I've had lots of conversations with residents individually in the village. So I think it's just a matter of kind of bringing that all together and outlining the data in a meeting. I was maybe with what we're proposing here in the near future, we might be able to use that for committee meetings. I don't know, but I definitely feel like with that, I need to be able to, people need to be able to interact and have input. Yeah. The next one is a handicap spot in Hampstead condominiums. I got the contact information for the gentleman that sent the letter to John Scherpenberg. I've reached out to him to set up a few minutes to understand, what he's looking to do. And then, I think we can have a meeting on that one. And then with regards to the speed table in Miami Hill, again, just have been gathering some information, had a conversation with the chief last week, email back and forth with John and also Chris, gathering some information. So I think we'll probably be able to go ahead and move forward with a meeting on that one in the near future.
You want to go ahead and mention the chief and I were able to secure that speeding device?
Yes, which is super exciting. I think that'll be here soon, and that's going to go on Settle. We'll have the ability to move it, but we're definitely going to start with Settle. And so, I mean, I definitely think that that's going to really help to alleviate some of these traffic speeding concerns. And it'll be my hope. I would really like to be able to try and budget for another one. The chief and I kind of talked about that as
So,
well.
Avia, do you see coming out of your first item kind of a set of recommendations or maybe a flow chart of what we do when we have
Yes.
complaints about speeding?
Yes.
I mean, it'd be nice to have a process by which we go through when we get these complaints, so we can say, so it's not arbitrary, that there is a, step-by-step,
Yes, absolutely.
and recommendation based on data that we've
Yeah.
taken and.
Yeah, absolutely. Chief and Bill and I met in July to discuss just what kind of getting their thoughts, right, about what that could potentially look like.
Okay.
It's just a matter of being able to have those conversations, get the village input, and then putting that back to council after a report. But yes, absolutely, that's the intent.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to finance. Rob?
Okay, the incentive program for creation of private parking and private property is linked to the discussion as well about the fee stuff. And so I'm waiting until we figure out where we're going with that.
Mhm.
And I know Bill is working with MPF also and trying to see if we can do a test on that
Yes.
over in the historic district. So
Yes, I have had a discussion.
trash sticker program, I plan to wait to see where we end up with the new contracts that we're doing and what the bids are and things like that. So that will help drive that, next steps coming out of that. Direct deposit, we're in information gathering stage right now. And the finance payroll system will be linked, but more secondary. It's just getting data first on direct deposit. So and then we'll move on to discussing the finance payroll software. And of course, both those topics will heavily involve Joni as well as Eli to make sure that we're not doing something that's incorrect.
Okay.
Done.
Okay. Marcy, planning and zoning?
Sure. Building tear down aesthetics, that is in process. The committee and I met together with some members from MPF who had drafted the recommendations. And we had some questions about how realtors and developers might feel about that. So the MPF committee met and reached out to 3 realtors and Mr. Spinnenweber. And we have heard back from 2 of the realtors, not the 3rd. And I'm going to follow up with Mr. Spinnenweber because he did initially have some questions, which the group answered. And we have not heard from him since. So I don't know if that means he's okay with it or what. So I'll follow up with that. And we'll be meeting to hopefully further that. The work with MPF task force to take proactive steps to preserve village architectural heritage, that was also submitted as part of the recommendation from MPF in January. I chose to take those 2 pieces apart, the demolition versus the aesthetics, because to me, a demolition was a much more straightforward issue where, aesthetics gets into taste and, that's stickier and it's going to take a little more time. With regard to business economic development of the village as a whole, that narrow topic, it says ongoing and it is. Kim Beach and I worked together, I don't remember if it was March or April, to put together an incentive program for the businesses and a flyer where they would do a discounted gift card. So kind of like what we just did with MPF, where if you buy a gift card for one of the businesses, you get a $50 gift card for $40. I'm planning to get with Kim to recommend that we do that again for the either November or December town crier to encourage our businesses to, our residents to shop local and support our local businesses through the holiday season. The CRA Council was moved back into my committee, and I met with Bill and Kelly to get up to speed on that. They have recommended a couple members of that council. And I will follow up with them individually to find out where they are with the people that they recommended. And we will be meeting on that towards the end of the month, along with the tear down aesthetics. People have different vacation schedules. Kelly's going to be out, I'm going to be out, but we should have those 2 items wrapped up by the end of October.
Hey, Marcy, for the business economic development, are we looking also at some of those things? You know, I sent you that one document from another municipality in Ohio that no, actually it was a law firm, wasn't it? It's like things like, you know, TIFs and other financial incentives to redevelop. I mean, you know, I know Bill and I have gone down there. Yeah, Marcy, you went down there too, right? We went down to the industrial area. And so it seems like, I know it's a slow burn process, but that seems like, you know, again, if there's one place where we could have a big financial increase in revenue for the village, it would be down there somewhere. So I just don't know if you've had a chance to think about using those. And I know Joe's got experience in some of that area, so.
We haven't really gone any further on those kind of things
Okay.
at this point.
Yeah.
But you know, it is, you know, it's definitely something to consider, and we'll continue to discuss it.
Because it's going to be hard. It's hard for us to grow revenue without having new businesses type of thing. Well, or higher paying businesses type of thing. So,
Yeah. All right, Maggie, rules and law.
Okay. So I had tabled the installation of solar panels. I still don't think that's the most pressing issue we have going on right now, but I am planning to, at least during this 3rd quarter, start to contact the people who said they were interested in it. So I would like to leave it tabled. But you and I, Bill, talked about how to maybe turn it over to a group of interested, you know, community members who can start to build like a knowledge base, because that is just not something that's not my specialty. I'm interested, but I'm not proficient. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then have their input as part of that data gathering phase, and then move forward. So that's nowhere near the future. So items number 2 and 3 came off tonight. And then reviewing the ordinance regarding overnight parking, I had planned to address in my last meeting, but Bill and I agreed to table it for 2 reasons. One is more philosophical. Do we want to really tackle overnight parking as a whole, or do we just want to tackle overnight parking as it relates to these hardship passes? And because we may or may not make some changes to our approach to these passes as a whole, I didn't want to get down this path and then have to go do something different. So can we please table that one as of tonight? And then I'll pick it up as soon as finance gets done with whatever, or if we pass it off to a different committee to work on incentivizing in a different manner, we'll handle it concurrently. So that, and then, so the review and discovery of Dora legislation, just to clarify for everybody, Dora legislation, I forget what Dora stands for, but it's an acronym. Essentially what it allows you to do.
Designated outdoor recreational area.
Thank you. So more importantly, it's not so much like the workout side of recreational areas, it's the drinking side. So what it was proposed to do was like, maybe we can look at the square or a portion of the square, or maybe the square and the Old Town Square, and possibly a conduit between the two, where as people, you know, patronize those businesses, they could like order a drink at the inn and then walk over to, you know, the fountain, and maybe over to Grader's, or maybe to a different restaurant, or potentially go shop in the shops down there. So right now you cannot leave an establishment and walk down the sidewalk with an open container, but a Dora legislation, it's been passed in a couple neighboring communities and they're having success with it. So, I mean, it could be, arguably it's an economic planning and zoning thing, but it's in my committee. So, and Marcy is also, so it works out that we'll talk about that as, you know, an economic development item and change the code. So that is something I'm getting ready to tackle now that I'm finished with these other things. And then in addition, so the review the MCO code, which I guess technically doesn't come off, we're still kind of in phase 1. We're still looking at code items where things are just outdated in the code. Like this last one it referred to Kroger's, which has been gone forever. So we're still continuing to
Over.
look at stuff like that, look at places that are, one place in the code says one thing and then it's contradicted in a different place. So we're still searching through for that kind of thing. But Bill, can we add back to my committee the recodification?
Oh,
I-
yeah.
Because I'm going to go ahead and look into that ASAP, get a quote. I just want to be able to get a quote. And then what I'm going to do is bring to council all of us prior to even having a committee meeting, like the menu that they're going to give us. Like, do we want a bunch of paper code books? Does everybody need one? Do we want it online? Last time, I think they had a program where you enrolled and every so often they update your online code book without this whole thing having to happen. And at the time, Dan didn't love that idea, but maybe we're different. So can we add that and then we'll pursue
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I think we should definitely add it. We're really, really getting behind on updating, things like that. So,
Yeah, we were behind 10 years ago. So we're going to get that done and then hopefully roll on a cycle after
Yeah.
that.
good idea.
So I guess that, and then, we're adding this policy for putting resident comments into the minutes. So my next meeting will address that and hopefully talk a little bit about Dora.
Okay. Yeah, well, the Dora thing, it's an interesting thing to look at, but I think it's more of a warm weather, works better in warm weather. People aren't going to buy it,
We do it now and then it's ready to go.
Yeah, just
It was
exactly.
proposed to me in the spring and the person who proposed it said, hey, how about if by summer? And I was like, probably not, but I'll try.
Yeah.
So by next spring, we'll have this going.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. Okay, Joe, Health and Rec.
This won't take very long. So the construction drawings for the multi-use path, we're going to talk about that anyway. We got a resolution for the contract, and I'll go in more detail on Murray Path at that point. The walking path for Whiskey Creek, really haven't done much on that because with COVID, it was kind of hard to organize work crews and all the rest of stuff. I'll try in the next month to come up with some plan for what we need to do with Whiskey Creek. I know, John, you've been down there and you've cleared out some fallen trees and stuff.
Yeah.
But and people are using it right now. I mean, there's a fair amount of traffic down there, but we need to do something to just formalize a plan and put it together. And hopefully November we can organize a work crew to kind of do some stuff there. Deer Park Hillside conservation, not a conversation, but a conservation, is about planting the hillside next to Waldorf. That again also kind of has hit the skids because of COVID. We'll probably get back on that in the spring. I don't see anything happening, between now and the next month or so. And then as far as the review process for naming and using the village properties, I haven't done anything on that. I'll try to work on it because this may actually pop up with the Murray Path because there are some people that are starting to inquire about naming rights. So it probably dovetail into that pretty well. It's not only the process that we need to use and council to decide, when do we grant naming rights, but the other concept there is what do we charge for those types of things? And, in the past, people have said something about giving us money for the South 80, and I said, for $1 million, we'll put your name on the park. And then that way we can fix that tunnel. But, it's about the only thing we really needed money for down there to work on. But I'll try to work on that the next month or two. That's it for Health and Rec.
Hey,
Right.
Joe, you got to put in a plug for your fundraiser on I think the 24th.
I'll do that when we talk. I've got a whole spiel when we get the Murray Path with the contract. All right.
Okay.
Okay, Kelly, you're up.
And before we move on,
Hey,
wait, hold on.
Wait.
Before we move on, Joe, Lauren Halad, when we were talking about doing naming rights for the new building edition, did quite a bit of work on a process to put together for doing naming rights. Like he did quite a bit of research and then.
Okay, I'll check with him and get the benefit of that research. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Kelly.
okay, raised building department fees. As Maggie had pointed out tonight about changing the code regarding having the building commissioner need to be a resident of Mariemont. My feeling is before we do anything with that, I think we need to address the structure, the ongoing or future structure of the building department. I know we're kind of preliminary talking about how that department will move forward. And I think until we know more about how that will go and the possibility of us even putting the permit fees out to a third party, that's something that needs to wait until we know that structure. And I would prefer not to venture too much into that structure at this point in time. I mean, we can put it out a date if we have a target date for whatever personnel changes might potentially be made. If that's the case, I'd say spring.
Sorry, we didn't mean to, go ahead.
Spring.
For the fees.
No, spring for the fees.
Let's spring for the fees. Yeah.
So Kelly, you said that there, is there a separate topic or is it embedded in that topic about the structure?
The structure of the department is more the bigger issue that this will be a part of, depending on how we structure the department going forward. And again, I mean, so that's more of a personnel decision that would impact.
But actually, again, because council doesn't decide who's in the position, but they decide on the structure, just like when we went from 2 to 1 in the tax office. So
Yeah.
there has to be a recommendation about if we're changing the structure, it should come from a committee about here's how we think we ought to change the structure.
And until we know that, I don't think, so I think it's a subset of that will be how we handle the permit fees.
Right. So I'm just, well, we should have that as a topic. Mike, that's where I'm heading. I'm sorry if I'm taking a long time to get there, but that's where I'm heading is we don't have that called out somewhere about the structure of the,
Okay,
and it sounds like we should, because it's linked to this.
yeah, well,
So it sounds
from a
like
personnel aspect, we should probably have that committee. I mean, we'd have to determine who would be responsible for that aspect of it through council. So I think that we need to have an upper level conversation regarding the future of the building department before we put it anywhere.
well, but it sounds like it should come from a committee again, just like finance did the tax office. And we said, hey, because we interact a lot with tax office, we said, okay, look, we have a way we think we can go from 2 to 1. It seems like Public Works would also say, okay, with the building commissioner and the fees and what the structure may look like, it seems like it would fit there.
I think that's a conversation we could have. I think it's premature at this point to put it in a committee. Okay?
Yeah, let's just.
Okay.
Let's let it go. Thank you. Thank
For
you.
now, for now.
Governmental aggregation. Honestly, haven't done much in that at all. I would actually, until we get some of these other things under our belt, I'd like to table that.
I agree.
Okay. Murray Ave repairs. I had a very lengthy conversation with Melissa Taylor. In a nutshell, their focus right now, and this could tie into it, is that empty fire department building on Murray Ave. They've got a huge drainage project that they need to work on with that. And until they can, and so that being said, depending on the magnitude of that project and how much it involves tearing up the road or whatever, that repaving could be an offshoot of that. But right now, she is working on how to fix the drainage, how extensive the drainage issue is. And then at the end of the year, she told me that they're going to have an engineer do a analysis and determine the top 5 streets that need immediate attention. So it's a work in process. So our timeline obviously is contingent on their timeline. Parking assessment. I think we've got parking stuff going on in a lot of different committees. So I think maybe the Finance Committee and Public Works Committee and the Rules and Law Committee maybe should have a committee meeting. Because we've got the charge for the fee, which obviously we've tabled for right now. And then, the overnight parking ordinance that's in Maggie's committee, village-wide assessment, a lot of moving pieces. So I'm open to suggestions on how we move forward with that. Do we wait for a decision on the parking passes before we decide how we do an assessment? Because right now what I see is like, for example, we walked at about 11:30 last night and there's overnight parking everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's how I mean, everywhere. It's not the north side, it's the south side, it's every single street. I see cars parked at 11:30 that I can guarantee you aren't being moved at 12:59.
Yeah.
So,
I've said-
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think we need to make a decision, or, you know, it needs to come to a recommendation to council about what we do as a whole with regards to the overnight parking before we would go and put, you know, change fees and all that stuff. I brought it up when we had the last, you know, committee report with regards to finance. That would be my thought. Let's figure it out, what it is we want to do.
I think overnight parking is a bucket within an overall assessment. I really strongly believe the overall assessment should be completed, not recommendations from an overall assessment, but an assessment meaning like, what is our current state?
Mhm.
What is our desired state? And in what instances are we meeting that where there aren't any problems and we are currently at our desired state? And then in what places are we not at our desired state? And then we can divide it up and start getting to those, you know, getting to those goals. But an
Yeah.
overall assessment is something that should have come first and needed to be done. I think we were just, you know, in a position where we felt like we couldn't wait anymore. And so we started moving on these smaller pieces, which is, you know, fine too, but a global assessment with a goal
Yeah.
is where you should start on any project like this.
Yeah, I disagree. Yeah.
So what are you saying, Kelly? Do you want to take that out of your committee then? I mean, because
no,
we've
no.
got too many.
No, I don't want to take it out. You know, to Maggie's
Rob's gonna wanna
point,
take
anybody
that
can talk- What? What?
No, because we don't get anything done in the community. Bill,
Uh,
make
No,
a joke.
Bill,
Mike,
okay, strike. But I mean, recommendation is down the road. I think assessment is one thing. We should get started on that. And we're going to need to involve Chief and Feichner and all these guys from a safety standpoint. I mean, the comments have been made that you can't get a fire truck down a particular road if there's overnight parking. You know, some of that's open to interpretation.
Hey, Kelly, how about, here's an idea. How about as a first step though, the Public Works, which I'm on with you, is let's try to say, what do we think the assessment should look at? And we can share that with council. It's not even do this, just like, what's the scope of the work? What do we think
Okay.
it should be? And we can share that with council to say, okay, do you agree or not? Or what do you think we should do? And maybe a first step to just to declare. what-
Yeah, look at that. I mean, yeah, well, let's shoot for the beginning of November to have a meeting.
Okay.
Oh, wait, the last one is we're opening bids on Wednesday for trash contract.
Do we have a meeting scheduled?
For opening the bids,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have to have a meeting.
okay. But we need to have a meeting to assess the bids and then ask if there's any questions, clarifying questions and stuff, right?
Wait till we get the bids.
Are you sure? I thought we had in the past, there was a meeting where we opened up the bids in the meeting.
Well, it wasn't, yeah, I mean, we just opened the bids. And like when we did it with the
Long
lawn care,
contract.
yeah, I mean, it was just the folks opening the bids, and then if the bidders chose to be there, they could be there.
Right.
But it wasn't like a posted public meeting.
I think it was.
I thought it was.
Usually you get the bids, and Chris normally on bigger projects, he organizes the bids, you know, by bidder and by amount. And then that sheet is submitted to the committee, and then they're discussed and debated, and a recommendation is put forth.
Yeah, I mean, the opening the bids is just a formal process of opening the bids, and then the bids would go to the committee for discussion.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we need to set up the meeting to discuss the bids.
Right. Yes.
Hey, can I step back 1 second? 'Cause I was having problems with my camera for whatever reason. On that parking assessment, just an idea here. Columbia Township a couple years ago did an assessment of Madison Place. They paid some firm to do it. So if we can maybe get a copy of that report and see the framework, how they went about to, you know, do the analysis. It might help us as we try to take a look at this for Mariemont. What are the key factors to consider and all the rest? And they paid an expert on the outside to do that. So maybe we can learn something from that process.
Okay, yeah, I'll ask. Sure, thanks, Joe.
Okay, so I think that's
me.
all. That's all for that. Potential CARES Act projects. And apparently there was a spreadsheet attached.
This thing, because this.
Yeah.
That's not it, right?
All right, so potential CARES Act projects, obviously we have some underway at the moment, our IT infrastructure probably being one of the larger ones right now that we're undertaking.
Yep.
And Eli has really been fantastic in taking point on this. Talk to vendors, making arrangements. We're going to be engaging in a lot of rewiring within the building. We're going to dedicate a room in the basement.
But the thing is, we have, that's accounted for in the spreadsheet, and we have now the money has shown up that we expected.
Yeah.
So there's still $113,000 left. And so again, the criteria as Tony laid out has to be encumbered by November 20th. Project has to be completed by December 31st. We need to have a process that says, okay, let's bring forward ideas and make sure, number one, that they qualify. And Tony's sort of our arbitrator of making sure that it does qualify for CARES Act funding.
Yeah.
And then, which ones can we go forward on?
Yeah.
Because I know, again, we've already sort of checked on recodification, and Tony believes that does qualify, and I agree. I mean, because you have to come in to go look at the actual hard copy to find out what's on the books currently versus what's on the website. And we're going to get a quote for that. That's what Maggie's working on.
So they can't complete this thing and give us a final product by December. This is a couple month long thing. Even if we were signed off today, we wouldn't have it by December, but we can have the project underway. We can approve what we are ordering from them, and then we can ask to be billed by December, I suppose. I mean, they wouldn't mind. I don't know how that what the rules are.
So, Tony, I would think that it's sort of like an accounting thing, right? Where you can, whatever the work has been done up to that point, they can bill us for the work that's been completed to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. It could progress bill us for X amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a portion.
Now, shouldn't we have some, payroll for police or fire where they kind of do? I mean, I know that's already budgeted, but they're doing different duties than they normally would. Is that something we can, charge throughout the year?
Yes,
If guys have been doing different things.
especially the service department doing the tot lot and spraying all that in the pool.
Yeah. Do you have I don't know, any kind of documentation, timesheets, hours, that kind of stuff?
Yes, I'll get it to you.
Excellent.
So there's I think that would be great to include that. We said Eli's time has also been one of the projects.
Yes.
But
Yeah. We haven't budgeted for her.
Yep.
As much as she's working. Yeah.
there's another project, Joe, this is from your committee. The tennis, we've talked for a while about trying to make improvements over there. And Kevin Taylor, who's the president of the Tennis Association, has actually already acquired bids because, he's raised some funds privately already. I believe it's something like around $24,000 or something like that he's raised privately. He's gotten bids to take the space over there and create another patio area. Because I don't know if you've been there when the tennis team is playing, and especially when, there's another tennis team there, and sometimes they actually have multiple tennis teams I've seen there. There's not enough room to spread out. And so I was talking to Melissa Taylor. A lot of us talking to Melissa Taylor. Anyway, was chatting with her about this, and she goes, yeah, if you have something where you are, again, creating a recreational area that you're improving or expanding that allows more social distancing in that environment, then that will qualify too. And so, Tony, I'm sorry I have not contacted you before about this, but when I was talking to Melissa, and that was just late last week, she was saying, oh yeah, we're doing some projects like that in Columbia Township that they believe qualifies for CARES Act, and there's some other municipalities that are doing something like that too. Again, expanding recreational space, because the tennis courts in the evenings, there's people waiting there to use them in the evening because we have the pickleball courts and they're very popular too with folks. So anyway, there's a
That's a good
quote.
idea.
There's a quote, $55,245, and they could get the work done before the end of the year. So that is an idea. And Joe, I don't know if you, I mean, again, this is sort of through your committee. Joe, are you listening? Are you?
I am. Okay.
Landing planes.
No,
So-
I'm actually looking for the estimate that Kevin sent. And, again, we have talked about the idea about improving the tennis facility, to take the tennis shack to a tennis pavilion at some point. I don't think we got time to do that before the end of the year, but it sounds like they can do this patio and the area, surrounding the building. And the question would be, are they willing to put some of that money up that they've raised so far towards this? I haven't had a chance to talk to Kevin yet.
Okay, so I talked to Kevin, and what his goal would be is, he's been in conversations with the school and to use the private funds plus the school to do the changes to the tennis hut area.
Okay.
Okay, so the project to expand the patio area to allow people to spread out more qualifies for CARES Act funding, whereas, making enhancements and making the pipes so you can use them earlier in the season, stuff like that, that's not going to be CARES Act funding available. And again, that's where he would say he's already in conversations with the school about getting some money from them to help with that.
All right. So can I make a recommendation here? Tony, can you be the point person for these various projects and collect the information as far as what it's going to cost, what the estimate is, and then, in essence, then get back to us at the next council meeting about how many requests do we have for the COVID money or for the CARES Act money, and then we can make a decision about what we're going to move forward on. But
Yeah,
it sounds like we got to go quick here. I mean,
I agree. I agree. I think
Yes.
I think the next council meeting, we need to pick which ones we're going to do and start moving on them.
get going. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get it all a list together.
Well, one of the other things that I've heard thrown out there that would be worth consideration is, the municipal office with Allison and Joni, there's no social distancing up there. And it's not even doable. And then, with Don and if Eli's in there and Eileen's in there, to maybe give some consideration to restructuring that department, moving people around, putting up some partitions, just making it better for the distancing, especially, with Don. I don't mean to call him out, but, you've got some people that are more vulnerable than others. So
I would say put it on the list.
that's
I
what
mean, get a rough plan, put it on the list, and we'll decide, because
Yeah,
this stuff's got to be done by the end of on this last tranche of money. What's our deadlines on these?
November 20th, it has to be encumbered. Work has
Okay,
to be completed by December 31st.
completed on even this last tranche?
Yes.
Oh
Now,
my
again,
goodness.
that's the rule. Yeah.
All right, so it's going to be tough to do some of this stuff, but let's get everything together and
I'm gonna try. Fine.
quite frankly, I'd hate to say this, but I wouldn't be adverse to having a meeting next Monday to making these calls and get moving on this thing, because we're under in essence we're looking at what, 72 days to the end of the year.
I will be out of town Monday.
I will be here.
I am also out of town Monday.
Well, it doesn't have to be Monday. It could be later. Are you guys out the whole week, both you two?
Wednesday would be good.
I'm out the whole week. And I took that week because there wasn't a council meeting.
Sure.
But you can meet on it without me.
Okay.
Let's all give it some thought, figure something out.
We can send around an email and see people's schedules. I think I'm here all week next week.
I just we're dealing with something at times of the essence, and so you have to move
No,
fast.
I
So,
agree with you. I agree with you, Joe.
all right.
I agree. I don't want to hold it up for
All
sure.
right.
We'll figure something out.
I'm telling you. If it's a Zoom meeting, I can zoom in, I guess.
That's
from anywhere,
true.
right?
That's true.
This shouldn't take long. I mean, it's just a matter of go to the list and say go, no go. I mean, go down the list and figure out how to get some stuff lined up for the money.
Yeah, stuff that qualifies.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, and Tony, you can you kind of were shaking.
Yeah,
your-
I'll gather some data.
Make sure that those dates are the firm dates and they're.
All right, thanks, Tony.
All right, the swimming pool update, the pool commission review of the pool commission bylaws.
Okay, since John's on the phone here, he can give us a quick update on the leak. He continues to, as I say, chase the gremlin in the pool leak. So he can tell us the latest and greatest on that whole thing. And then we'll go over the bylaws in a second here.
Okay, so the lap pool, we know leaks. We think the upper part is okay. Part that drains from the pit to the downstairs area has a leak somewhere within that 57 feet from the pit to where we're underground that we can actually visualize the piping. We also know that the small pool has a leak in it. We're not sure where it's coming from. Once it's 4 inches underneath the skimmer, it stays fine. So there's that little gap where the baby pool is, where they sit down. There, you can see the line going across from that little seating area to the bottom of the pool. That's where it's leaking, somewhere in that area. It stops going down from there, and we're not sure why. So we do know that in the chamber next to the baby pool, where we drain everything, that goes down to the lower level, where we saw water coming out of the old pipes to where we filled up a 5-gallon bucket within 4 minutes. Once we turned off the water and the circulation, it went down to a 5-gallon bucket in 27 minutes. So we're thinking it's somewhere in the circulation area of the pool and or the filling of the pool. So we're still trying to work on that.
Yeah, and we don't have a final proposal yet for any of the stuff. It's just you're still trying to determine where the leaks are.
Correct.
You're still chasing that gremlin, as I'm saying.
Yes. So even in the regular pool, there's a slight leak, we believe, that's in the drainage issue that's leaking out to the old drain that's allowing it to seep through the bottom area in the basement. So our proposal in the lap pool, we're going to reseal the drain area real good, reseal what's in the main pool real good. And then I'm going to talk to Shamrock about the baby pool and see if they're the ones that redid the configuration in that thing, or if they didn't, then we're going to have to talk to Ed Beck and see if he can kind of remember who did the configuration at that point. So we've been working with Ed throughout the time. So we're getting, each time we're down there, we're finding more and more about the leaks and what each pipe is doing at this point. So we've been underground in the tunnels, checking all the surfaces of the drains and everything else. We're marking where everything is going at this point. So we're getting there.
Yeah, so let me just say that John and his team has done a wonderful job on this thing. The amount of work that they've done is nothing short of fantastic, and the help that Ben was this summer was unbelievable. And I'll shout out, and I don't want to leave anybody out in the maintenance department, but what Mike did as far as crawling through those tunnels down there was, as I said when he did it, he should get a gold star for his efforts that day. It's an area that I don't think any of us would ever go into. But he crawled the entire area of the main pool underground.
Sometimes
I mean, it was nothing short of remarkable. So,
Yes.
all right. So we're to summarize, John, we're still trying to figure it out. We don't have the final plan yet. You're still chasing the gremlin on the one leak. So
Correct, but we're getting close to it so we can kind of configure everything out there. So.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the pool commission and the bylaws. I gave a copy of that to everybody. There was 2 small changes that were typed through on this thing, including Ed had a chance to review this. And Ed, I added you the information about we will not be indemnifying them for gross negligence or intentional misconduct. But that was about the only 2 changes from what Lauren had proposed. Does anyone have any comments to the bylaws? I want to give council a chance to look at it, and if you have any comments or questions. I think we'll go ahead and, if it's okay with everybody, recommend that the pool commission adopt this.
I had one just for consistency.
Okay.
So it's throughout. It's like in section 2, A and B, and then section 3, the last paragraph. It talks about you're using the term village government, which is fine, but very vague. Like it could be any given council person they happen to mention something to, or maybe just Bill and council doesn't get notified, which is fine if that's the process. But
I know where you're going with this, Maggie, and the answer to it is this is council's responsibility to tell them who they got to report to.
okay, so then when we have, like when it says to work with the pool manager to recommend and propose to village government, can we say to the mayor and village council? That's what we've said in all of our other stuff that we've done. And the code says that in a few places, and then consistency check throughout that document that it just, when it talks about village government, can we say who?
I don't care if we put it in as bylaws, but again, I think this is a responsibility of council and the mayor to decide how this structure works, who they come up through.
Okay.
And that's what our code of ordinances addresses that, as far as who the pool commission is supposed, and let me see what it says within the pool, within our code of ordinances. I had that here somewhere.
It says well, you don't probably have, so we recently amended this and it is.
No, I've got the one from January.
Okay, the mayor and village council is what it probably says.
All right, so if it says that, that's, they got to follow the code. This is more their bylaws, and
Okay.
our code defines what the pool commission's reporting responsibility is to us.
Okay, and then my only other comment was the fiscal year. Isn't our fiscal year as a village July? Because they specifically state that their fiscal year begins in January. Doesn't it make sense to have it be the same as ours?
Our fiscal year is January too, or it ends in December.
Is it?
Right,
Okay,
Tony?
I'm completely confused.
Tony, you're on mute.
Tony's on
Is that a
mute.
thumbs up that our
Okay, thumbs up.
Okay, what's the question?
our fiscal year for the village?
Fiscal year?
Yeah.
What's the question about it?
When does it end? December?
Oh,
Calendar
December
year?
31st. Same as
Okay.
the calendar.
Okay, I was wrong then.
All right, any other questions? Shall we vote on it, or go that level, or how do you want to handle it?
Well,
Why don't we just have a show of hands?
Okay,
yeah, I think you do a straw vote on it, Joe, because you probably don't even have to vote on it, but it'd be nice to know that everybody agrees with it.
okay, show of hands, thumbs up, thumbs down. Hey, Zoom works.
Everybody. Yeah. Okay, we off that?
Yep.
Okay, creation of the Waldorf Neighborhood Advisory Group. This is something that Joe and I have basically been talking to Karen Crick and a couple others over at Waldorf. This is something we would like to organize, and I've had a conversation with the resident, Matt Ayer. He is sort of
Hey,
he is willing to take point on this. I don't have, we haven't formulated the precise details of it, but we would like to get something going and underway, and then notify residents in the immediate area over there. That's something like that. We're trying to put together something like this and get, good participants.
So,
Any thoughts?
can I make a recommendation on this? Can we assign this to a committee to work on the details?
Well, it's already in your committee, right? Or it should be.
I don't think it is. I mean,
No.
again, when I read through it, I'm not sure, is it a health and rec item or not? It's not that I'm trying to dodge it. I'm just trying to stay within the functions as defined by the code of ordinances. Sorry about that.
True. I mean, but you've
That's
been working with Waldorf on other issues. I would just assume that it would stay there.
I would be supportive of that.
Everybody okay with that? Thumbs up, thumbs down again?
Yeah.
All right, so Bill, you and I had talked about this a little bit about that. We'll try to get an email out immediately seeking people who are interested in serving
Right.
on this advisory group and run that on a parallel path and try to have a health and rec committee meeting probably in the next week or so.
Yeah.
Probably, and it sounds like Marcy, you're out, but at least get the information out so we can get letters of interest back about people who are interested in serving on this.
Sure.
Waldorf has also agreed to provide the person power to drop flyers on the historic district's porches. So they'll be specifically aware that this is being formed. And then off of that, get the letters of interest back, try to work out, what the structure of the thing is going to be within the committee, and then be able to, make a recommendation about who should serve on the committee to full council.
Sounds good.
Yep,
All right.
good. Sounds good.
All right. Update on the street vacation. Joe, you're on a roll.
Yeah, very, very quickly. Ed, did you get the survey today or the plat today?
Yeah, it was dropped off at the village office. Bill, did you see it?
I saw it and I believe Tony has already signed it.
All right,
That's-
cool.
Did Tony sign it? Okay.
Yeah. He's-
All right, once we get that signed, once we get that filed, our vacation will be official.
Right.
And then the agreement has been signed by both parties and are on a 15-day time frame to get it done. So, Tony, you're on mute again. Did you sign
Yes.
the document? All right.
I signed
So
it earlier at 6 o'clock today.
I'm going to say optimistically, we'll get it for Halloween. So that'll be our trick or treat this year. So,
We are free. Yeah.
all right.
Just a quick question. Ed, where does that document go back to?
The girl's gonna come by tomorrow morning and pick
Gonna
it.
pick it up.
Just-
Yeah, you're right. There was a note.
Let's bring it downtown here. We'll get it recorded, okay?
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, the work with ICRC, I think we've already discussed that. I'll have more information as we go forward next week, into this week, I mean. Village offices will be closed Thursday and Friday, November the 26th and 27th, observation of Thanksgiving. I think we've already decided this, but if anybody's got any comments, the last council meeting in December will be Monday, December the 21st. I believe we've already had this discussion and decided that was when it was going to be.
Yes,
Maggie,
we have.
you were saying something though about it normally occurs on the 3rd.
Or,
Yeah.
right.
That is the third Monday. So,
Are we good? We're all good with this date?
I mean, I'm fine with it. I just thought, it's Christmas and if
It's
not
close.
Kind of late.
traveling, but if
Uh,
people are,
I mean, I prefer to have it the week before, but
I think Tony needs the time.
Yeah, it's just that we do the supplemental appropriations at that time, and we look at where we're over budgeted, and we got to figure out how much more we need to add to the appropriations. So it just gives me a little bit of time, halfway through December to see what kind of expenses we need to add to the appropriations.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that first meeting, I only have like a week, 10 days of data for December. But it could be done. We can overestimate. We could
The other thing we've
appropriate a
talked
little
about,
more than we
the other
need.
thing we've talked about doing is the permanent improvement fund decision making to occur in December also, because we always, we're saying that when it happens in January, people are trying to scramble to get the best price and all that kind of stuff. And we said, let's do it in December this year. The permanent improvement fund, get all the.
Yeah, that would be a separate meeting. We could do that anytime in December.
Yeah, but I like how you've done it in the past, Tony, where it's right before the council meeting. You just
Mhm.
feedback the two onto each other.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, as long as people's Christmas plans are not in motion, we will likely be traveling, but I mean, I have a phone and Zoom, so it doesn't make any difference. I'm just gonna be in wherever I am.
I thought you were hosting Christmas at your house this year.
No, remember, we don't have
Jewish.
Mhm.
people in our house who don't belong here.
Sure.
So,
All right,
so
but-
is Joni there?
Yeah, she's here.
So how many council members do we need to pass it? Is it just 4 votes or is it 5?
Or
4 people?
I mean, I can be at the
No,
meeting.
it's a simple majority,
Okay.
simple majority of whoever shows up.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll be
Yeah.
there.
I think that was one of the changes of the rules of council today to make it clearer that if you don't show up or if you abstain, that doesn't count. If you've got 4 people there and 2 of them vote different ways and the mayor breaks that ties, if you got 4 people there, you just need 3 people to actually
Oh, no,
vote
wait a minute, but Ed, in order to do it on emergency, don't we need,
We
you
need a,
need 5, 6. Yeah,
Majority?
we need 5 to declare the emergency?
right.
But we need at least 5 people. But Maggie, you're saying you can zoom in and,
Yeah,
I'm zooming from wherever I am, so who cares where I am? I might be in the car, but I can still call.
okay. All right, well, for now, we'll let it set there. One final thing, leaf pickup, John, leaf pickup begins October the 26th.
Yes. And due to the fact that Hamilton County is now under the red, we will not be bringing in the part-time people from Minutemen. So we do not risk the health of the employees.
Okay.
We will be going down to a 2-man crew. Since there's only 5 of us, that means there's only 2 trucks.
Okay.
So there are already landscapers dumping leaves out in the street, and
Yep.
dump them out in front and
Yeah.
calling us to come pick them up. We've told the residents they need to bag them prior to the 26th. And the fact that we are only 2-man crew instead of a 3-man crew going out, the leaf season is going to be a lot longer. So with the tree lighting coming up, as you know, during Thanksgiving, we have a short week. Then we have the tree lighting, and then we have the first Monday and Tuesday of the week, and the third week, Monday and Tuesday for that. So that means there's only going to be one truck that's gone out for the 2 days. And then we'll be back to 2 days, 2 trucks with a 2-man crew. So depending nobody gets hurt, and with vacation coming up, it's going to be very tight this year as far as getting the leaves picked up like we have in the past. So we do have a lot of contractors doing tree work, we found out, and they've been putting brush out already this past week. So homeowners have been calling us saying their tree companies did all this work and they need their tree stuff picked up. We try to tell them that we don't clean up after the contractors. They need to haul it away. But they said they charge them to have it hauled away, and the village is free. So therefore, it's going to sit out there until we get it.
Oh my
So-
God, really?
Yes.
John,
So anyway,
do we usually start leaf removal at that same time, end of October?
yes. So we usually go 10 weeks, 9 to 10 weeks, which is what it'll be this year because Christmas is different. So
I
we'll finish up
imagine.
that last part of before Christmas, the week before Christmas, and then be done with it at that point. So
I imagine
there will be a
there's-
lot of complaints. I will just
Yeah.
let everybody know there's going to be a lot of complaints about it.
I imagine there's a lot of leaves out there right now. I imagine we didn't have a lot of rain this fall, so that's
Yes.
probably why.
There's a huge pile right next to you, have you?
And
I
there's,
do.
well, and
In
that was
the
a
street.
contractor. And that was a contractor that put that
Right.
out in the
Yes,
street.
it was. They were doing
We have
the
had
same.
They-
conversations with that specific contractor multiple times
Yes.
that they're not supposed to do that. I don't understand.
And
Yeah.
I was advised that they were coming back to suck it up. But that's been 2 weeks now. So
So maybe they
But-
need to have a visit from law enforcement.
we have nothing specific about leaves except for what I gave you already
Is that
about the drainage situation. State of Ohio doesn't have anything specific about leaves in the street.
Yeah, I don't think
So-
this is the residents' fault.
No.
These contractors have been told that they're not supposed to do it. I tell my contractors, I use a different contractor, and I tell my contractors not to, and they abide by that. So
And right now, with it being light, they can put it in bags, and Rupke takes it for free on every Tuesday. So there are a lot of departments that are charging now for leaf pickup for special pickups. So a lot of departments are trying to get away from the leaf pickup because of the cost factor.
it might be worth just advising residents that what you just said, John, in terms of the leaf pickup this year and how it's just going to be a little bit slower, and residents
Yes.
might opt to pay that additional amount to have their contractor take the leaves. It costs more, but they might decide they might want to do that, which could be a benefit to the village because it'll save you guys a little
Yeah,
time.
and Allison has already put it on our Mariemont.org
Excellent.
issue, and we'll put it on next door as well
Can I ask you a
for
couple
what it's worth.
clarify? So if Hamilton County went back into the orange, would you be able to bring in extra help, or is it just a done deal at this point?
No, we can bring in the extra help, but then we run the risk, dealing with the Minutemen and the part-time help. All we need is one guy to come in sick with the COVID, and you got our whole department gone for 14 days.
But
No leaf pickup, no other things that we can do
Okay,
for 14 days.
I'm just trying to get some clarification on whether that depends on the level.
No,
Red,
not necessarily.
or if that's just.
I'm just saying because it's red,
That's-
there's more chance of us getting
I
contacted
was
with the
just trying to clarify that. Thank you.
yes.
And then
So
my
I'm
other
just looking out for the best safety of the village
I
and our
hear you.
guy.
I just
So
wanted to make sure I understood that. And then the other question I had is, with regard to bagging leaves, are you saying that residents, if they choose not to bag their leaves, they may be in for a delay? If they do bag their leaves, then Rumpke will take them. Is that what you're saying?
yes, for free. They can put it in a garbage can. In fact, Rumpke in Montgomery and some of the other areas, they have a toter. They'll give them another toter that has yard waste on it that they can dump it in that, and then they'll pick it up that way as well. But,
Does it matter whether it's a paper bag or a plastic bag?
Yes.
they do not take plastic.
No
It has to be
plastic.
paper bag or a yard waste or
Or
a
trash
a
can?
container, some other kind of container that's marked yard waste.
That's
Okay.
specifically designated yard waste.
Because we've had too many plastic bags and it doesn't recycle very well. That's why they got rid of that.
Again, just clarifying.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, just as a gentle reminder to all residents, please don't rake the leaves into the street. It creates, problems in our catch basins and stormwater runoff and.
Well,
so
and it's just dangerous when it's slick and they're wet.
that's
It's
another
just
problem.
dangerous. It creates I mean, driving on it, walking on it, any of that.
Yeah, just rake it to the edge of your yard and, eventually either bag it or John will eventually be around and pick it up.
Right.
Okay,
I mean, perfect world, rake it, bag it.
well, whatever. All right, are we ready for resolutions, Tony?
Oh, God.
All right, the first one, to reappoint Rick Gibson as Mayor's Court Magistrate for calendar years 2021 and 2022, and to set compensation.
Okay, I need a motion and a second to pass this.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye. Can I make one request for these people that are going to be subject to a contract, that we see a copy of the contract before it's signed? Because I think does Rick have a contract, Rick Gibson?
Yes.
And Ed and Chris Ertl has one. So could we see a copy of that contract before it's signed, just so we
Sure.
know what the terms are?
All right.
All right, very good.
Okay,
All right, next one.
next one.
To reappoint Edward J. McTighe as Solicitor for the Village of Mariemont for the calendar years 2021 and 2022.
All right, that was the third reading. I need a motion and a second to pass.
So moved.
Second, Rob's got the second. Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, Tony.
All
Can
right,
we,
next one, to confirm the reappointment of Christopher M. Ertl as Village Engineer for the calendar years 2021 and 2022, and to set compensation.
again, third reading, a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves. Avia,
Aye.
aye. Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Maggie.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye. Hey, Tony, can we do the next 5 combined?
I think we can.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
after we do Jordan.
Okay.
All right, to confirm the reappointment of Jordan Shad as swim pool manager for the calendar years 2021 and 2022.
All right, that was the third reading. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, Tony, can you bunch some of the
Yeah,
rest?
to reappoint Ted Beach, Terry Donovan, Lisa Blanding, and Mandy Rohall as members of the Pool Commission for the calendar years 2021 and 2022.
All right, those were third readings. A motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Oh, Marcy.
I've already seconded.
Yeah, all right. Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right.
All right, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a state local project sponsor contract agreement pursuant to provisions of the Clean Ohio Trails Fund, COTF, and/or Recreation Trails Programs, RTR, RTP, including the contracting for all work necessary relative to preliminary design and construction drawings, and to declare emergency.
All right, you've heard the first reading.
Can I add a quick comment here?
Sure.
I'm not sure we need to go to an emergency for the contract, because we still need to get an item from Columbia Township as far as an easement before we can sign the contract. So I don't think we need to declare an emergency tonight
Whoa.
for the contract signing. Unless we want to give the authority for the mayor to sign it, and then when we pick up that last piece of information from Columbia Township, then he can just go ahead and execute it. We got a couple different options here.
Thoughts?
Joe, I think you're right. It doesn't make any difference, but I think it might be a good idea. Go ahead, pass it on an emergency. Chris was telling me, Joe, that we may not need that easement. He wasn't sure. He was going to check with Columbia Township. If we need it, I'll get one prepared real quickly as soon as I get the legal. So I think we can at least authorize the mayor to go ahead and sign the thing.
Okay. All right. So if that's the case, let me go through a couple things here real fast, bring everybody up to date on where we're at.
Did you
on
lose
the-
power of you?
We lost power.
Oh my God.
And my kids are all screaming in the background. So I'll be back. I can see. I need my flashlight.
Oh my God.
Either
All right. If we're going to do
That's got to be a first. All right. So a couple of things real quick.
Joe,
So,
Joe, hold on a second. We need to, if we're going to do this on emergency, I need to suspend the rules, then we'll have the discussion. So
Okay.
I need you've had the first reading. I need a motion and a second to suspend the rules and have the second and third reading.
Is it because it's raining?
No moved.
Just the storm.
You got a second?
This can come sit with mom. It's okay.
Kelly, just-
Okay. All right. Mr. Bartlett.
aye.
Mrs. Graves.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo.
Aye.
Ms. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Hey, who's
Aye.
that cutie?
This is Bennett.
All right. May we have the second reading? Tony, where'd you go?
Tony lost power.
Oh, no.
Where'd you go? Tony, where'd you go? Tony, where'd you
Okay,
go?
so resolution.
Rob's going to do it.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a state/local project sponsor contract agreement pursuant to provisions of the Clean Ohio Trails,
Nora. I did big hard rain.
including the contracting for all work necessary relative to preliminary design and construction drawings, and to declare emergency.
All right. We've had the second reading. Now we can have discussion. Joe.
okay, real quick. What we're talking about here, the contract with ODNRs for the $267,000. The contract wording's been reviewed by Ed, myself, Bill, and others, and it seems like it's acceptable. We've gone through all the different quirks, and we think we're okay. As we said, we think part of the median is owned by Columbia Township, so we may or may not need to get an easement document, but they have confirmed that they will give us whatever we need. They're completely in on this thing. We can start recovering 75% of our costs once we get this contract signed. So it makes sense for us to get moving on it. Fundraising, we got $36,000 in private contributions already received. We got a $75,000 commitment from Columbia Township, which we should be receiving a check very soon here. Marcy talked about the October 21st fundraising event at 50 West from 4 to 9 p.m. 50 West is going to share the profits from the sales that day, and they'll also have their own beer.
Hey,
What's
Joe,
that?
it says on Facebook it's 4 to 10.
4 to 10, 4 to 9, 4 to 10.
Okay, I just want to make sure. 'cause
It's more food than anything else, but
Okay.
all
Just
right,
wanna make
so
sure everyone knows.
all right, construction drawings. This is the thing we need to get moving on right now. And that work should be starting. It should take 6 to 8 weeks to get that done. There will be no cost to the village because either the cost of the documents are going to be covered by the ODNR grant and or by our private contributions. So, I mean, there's no cost to the village about getting going on the construction drawings. So we're going to move on that. And we still plan to build this thing in spring 2021 is what we're looking at right now. That's why we got to get this contract signed. Landscaping plans. I will mention this just so everybody is aware. We have a preliminary landscaping plan. It can be found on the murraypat.org website. You can take a look at it. We plan to let people look at it, and it will definitely be modified. This is not a final plan by any stretch of the imagination. The landscaping plan will take 4 months to gather comments and to finalize. But anybody that has any comments to the landscaping plan can send us an email at murraypath@gmail.com. So we're going to try to do this landscaping plan virtually to start with before we bring it into a health and rec committee meeting for, hopefully, the final go around. But it's the way to kind of get this plan out now, be as completely transparent as we can, and let people opine on what they think. This is not going to be the plan from one person. It's going to be done by many. So again, some good news here, and that's why we want to get moving on this contract at this point. One last thing, I know we're running late here, but we just found out there's another grant program that Hamilton County the development has, that there's apparently large sums of money floating around right now for potentially recreational projects. Rob picked up on this after a meeting with Columbia Township last week. So we're in a matter of in the process of gathering information. So we don't know if the Murray Path will be eligible for this or not, but we are finding more and more sources of revenue. So we think we're going to be able to raise all the money privately for Murray Path.
Hey,
Great.
Yeah.
All right. All right, maybe we have the third reading.
Okay, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a state-local project sponsored contract agreement pursuant to provisions of the Clean Ohio Trails Fund and/or Recreational Trails Program, including the contracting for all work necessary relative to preliminary design and construction drawings, and to declare emergency.
All right, I need a motion and a second to adopt the resolution.
so moved.
Second,
Second. All right, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Palazzolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye,
Mr. Stelzer.
Hi.
All right, I now need a motion and a second to invoke the emergency clause.
So moved.
second.
Second, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Palazzolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye,
Mr. Stelzer.
Hi.
All right, that resolution will be adopted. All right.
These are reappointments.
Yeah,
we can do 5.
yeah, just do Peter Wren.
Yeah.
Tensing's got 2 years versus, so I gotta do 3 groups, right?
We'll do,
Yeah, so you gotta do 3 groups.
yeah.
Okay, to reappoint Peter Wren, the member of the Architectural Review Board for the calendar years of 2021 and 2022. This is the first reading. So there's no voting, we're just moving on, right?
Yeah, we're just moving on.
Okay, to reappoint Eric Marsland, Dave Wurtemberger, Ruth Varner, and Carrie Gray as members of the Parks Advisory Board for the calendar year 2021. First
All right,
reading for
those
all
are
4 of those.
First readings.
To reappoint Mary Tensing as a member of the Parks Advisory Board for the calendar years 2021 and 2022. It's a first reading.
All right. Moving on to ordinances.
Okay. First one here is to amend chapter 29 of the Mariemont Code of Ordinances for a charge of $100 for annual stickers issued for overnight parking. This is the third reading. It came from the Finance Committee, and given that we are trying to find a way to allow residents to more directly provide their input, I would move to table this for the time being.
Second.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maggie had the, who had the first? Or
I did.
you didn't? Okay, Rob. All right, on roll call, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Palazzolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye,
Mr. Stelzer.
Hi.
All right, that will be tabled for the time being. The last ordinance.
An ordinance enacting chapter 56 of the codified ordinances of the Village of Mariemont entitled Comprehensive Right-of-Way Administration. Second
That's a
reading.
second reading. Any discussion regarding this? No? No discussion?
oh, Bill.
All right, I'm going to adjourn. We're adjourned.
That's great.
8:47.
All right, cool.
Bye, guys.
Bye.